Hi everyone, it's Marieta. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Today I have a special guest with me, Tatiana Dudyez, who is my former client. Or are you still my client? I hope you are.
I'm still your client. And by the way, my daughter is now your client. So,
Big
right?
friend, but she is CEO and founder of Radiance Groupies Inc. She is also speaker consultant and executive coach. Tatiana, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you today. It's been quite a path together.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So I do want to start how it all started for you, because obviously this is immigrant success story, and people who are watching, they want to learn from you. And many of these people are potentially entrepreneurs who want to
Mhm.
move to United States and they want to take similar path. So how did it started? How did it all started? Like, I know you were a super successful person back in Canada, running your business, lady boss, big time,
Lady boss. Yeah.
big time. And suddenly you decided that, oh, I'm just gonna pack everything. I'm just gonna go to US. Like, what was the behind? What was the motivation? What was the inspiration? That's
Yeah, it was that easy. It was just that easy. So yeah, I was running my business. It was a franchise in corporate housing in Canada. I was based in Montreal. I was an owner, founder of this business. I had owned it for 15 years, and I got to this point where I hit a wall. I hit my own wall, and that means that I got to this point where yes, it was successful, but I didn't feel inside successful. And I started asking myself a lot of questions. Why am I not feeling successful, really, according to what on the outside I've accomplished? And I dug a little bit more and I went to this Tony Robbins event that is called Date with Destiny. That was back in December 2013. And in that event, Date with Destiny, you're basically dating your destiny, and you are looking at what is it in your life that you don't like, what is it in your life that you like, what is it that you want to keep, what is it that you want to shed. And as I started looking at what I wanted to shed, I realized that the life I was leading was really not was no longer a reflection of who I really am. It was no
mm,
longer a mirror of what I really, really wanted, what my heart was seeking. I
mm,
was no longer in alignment with my partners in that business. I was no longer in alignment with where I lived. I was, and I was no longer, I wasn't even the parent I wanted to be, even though my kids were at the time that 5, 6 years ago. So they were like in their 20s, right? Early 20s. So but that being a parent to me is really important, and being a role model for my girls is really important, and that piece really mattered to me. And so I looked at all of the pieces of my life, and I started to see that it wasn't what I wanted to live. And I decided right there to sell my business, and I gave myself a year. I basically, that event, I spent like 6 days freaking bawling my face. Like, I was
wow.
crying, I was in fear. I realized that a lot of the reason why I had kept this business so long, even though I wasn't super happy in it towards the last years, was really because it was fear-based. I was afraid. I was afraid to get out of that comfort zone. I was afraid to get out of my box. And it was a box I had created for myself, so that ensured me financial stability. It ensured me my status. It ensured me a certain level of identity I had created, because I was really well known in the business and that industry on a North American level. I was very well known within my community. So I had created this whole box for myself, but I no longer fit it in my own box. And so
Wow.
I was like trying to push the walls to my box, but it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't making me happier. So I decided to sell the business and jump off my cliff. And I gave myself a year, which I did um, actually get out by December 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I finally walked out of my office with my box in my hands and left what was my baby for 14, 15 years. It was literally, I used to call it my third baby. I have two girls. And I have shivers just talking about it, actually, because it really was, when I think about it, it was really a turning point for me, like a huge turning point. I was leaving my comfort zone. I was leaving my past. I was not just entering a new chapter, I was creating a new book altogether, like right there. And in the meantime, I joined the Tony Robbins Platinum group because I knew that by then, not having a company, not having a team, my kids are grown. I mean, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And so then I started thinking about touring the world with Tony Robbins, immersing myself in a new environment with, rewiring my brain, really setting myself free from old beliefs and old paradigms and old ways to think and be. And that was my way to gift myself with this amazing year and opening myself up to something, to the way that I really want to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so I then discovered how I wanted to live, and by actually living it that way. And I knew that I needed to, it's like I needed to come home. It was like Canada, Montreal had been my adoptive country, and I'm super grateful for what it brought me and how it nurtured me to create a family, to create a business. But I needed to come home, and home to me is an environment like I was born in. I was born on a French island in New Caledonia, which is in the Pacific next to Australia. And to me, that's me. That's my free spirit. That's my child in me. It is next to a beach. It is in the sun. It is with coconut trees. It is in an environment that vibrates with me. It makes me feel joyous. It fulfills me from inside, And I was starting to think about, okay, well, where is that? So I don't want to go back to that island. It's too isolated. I've by then decided to create a coaching business. I'm like not going to create much on a little deserted island, all respect due to my home environment. But so I didn't want to be in Florida. It wasn't what vibrated with me. So I decided that it would be California, and everybody around me went, "Are you crazy? Why California? Why do you have to pick something so far away?" Because I had two girls. I had a community. I had friends. My family is more in France, but I had what was comfortable, right? And I was leaving everything behind,
Yeah.
including my kids.
Mm.
And there was a little bit of guilt, but then again, I really again wanted to be that role model that always told them to follow their dreams, always told them to follow their heart and their soul to wherever it's going to lead them. So as a matter of fact, at the same time I moved to California and hired you a year before that. So we've been together for at least 3 years, because I've moved to California 2 years ago. You were hired a year before.
Yeah.
It was great, a great experience with you. The reason I hired you is because I spoke to a lot of different lawyers, and you made it so much more simple than everybody else. It was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. No worries. Don't. And I'm like, wow, okay. So everyone else was giving me a really long runaround, services, cost, complications. And I'm the type of person that I know what I want. I have the vision. If I hire you, you take care of the details. Of course, there was a lot of work to it. An E2 visa is not simple.
Yeah.
But you were there, along the way to coach me and guide me. And that was it. So I've been here for 2 years, and I am not going back. Sorry, my Canadian friends. I love you, but I'm not going
Of
back.
course you're not. Of course you're not.
No.
And now, since you moved here, obviously, I know you started your coaching business and we became great friends. We are neighbors. Hello,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And I am grateful for that because, there are not that many. The way I see it is that there are not that many immigrant entrepreneurial boss ladies or lady bosses who are also spiritual. You know what I mean? And it's rare.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and I see that in like what you're describing, this journey of yours, it shows that not only, I mean, obviously, coming to US, getting the investor visa, like I work with these entrepreneurs, but then these people, majority of them, didn't have to overcome the blocks and the fears you had to overcome because you were already all set back home. And I can understand when you say, okay, you created your own box and you were proud of this box. Like you were this, someone who is well known, established, brand, wealthy, and suddenly you have to give it up. Like that's just, it's so hard. And I'm talking not about finances, I'm talking the inner work that you had to do to be able to move to different country and start from scratch again, despite the fact that you had your investments and you invested into this business, but still, like, just to move and change your life like that requires some serious commitment. And I want to stress this because there are so many people who want to live that quote unquote American dream. It's a cheesy term, but I don't care if you live in the United States or you live in Bali, you can still live your American dream. The point is you have to overcome yourself, right? And that is what you've done, and you are living proof, and that's why I love you, actually. And obviously you have your coaching business, and you are helping not just women but also men, right? So tell us more about that. Tell us more about what is this coaching all about? What are you doing for humans? Because I know you're doing great work, but people need to know.
Yeah, thank you. My passion is really to teach people, men and women, to bridge the gap within. What does that mean? We all have a gap within that is created by our fears. It's created by our conditioning. It's created by biases that we were raised with, that we've been surrounded with in society, our friends, our family, experiences that we've encountered in life. We all have wounds that need to heal, and those wounds, whether they were inherited or we actually created them from experiences that we had in our life, need to heal. And so there is a bridge that needs to happen within, and I help people identify what holds them back and where are, it's like I usually like to identify it like that. I bring a flashlight into their unconscious by listening to them, and that's my gift, is I'm really good and quick at identify what is actually the unconscious bias that you have that is holding you back. And a niche that I've particularly developed is to bridge the inner gap between what I call feminine intelligence and masculine intelligence with the principles of consciousness. So there is a way to be in life and work with high performance, but conscious high performance. And what does that mean is it's basically an alchemy of everything that I've just mentioned. It's the feminine intelligence. What does that mean? We all have feminine energy inside of us. Men and women do have feminine energy, and we all have masculine energy inside of us. And so it's clearly identified as to what the qualities are from either side. But what people don't know and what people don't talk about is that these principles, these qualities, need to be brought to light so that people identify where they are choosing to be, who they're choosing to be, through a level of consciousness in order to be a higher performer. So I'm specialized with high achievers because it's a reflection of me, right? This is my story, is I have been a high achiever like you have been all my life. I'm used to pushing. I'm a lady boss. I'm used to making shit happen, and I'm used to be very impatient, and I'm used to lead, and I'm used to be very linear in the way that I address business, and I address projects, and I address my ambition. And that has not always served me. And this is actually what I discovered when I started this journey 5 years ago, is I discovered that I was not integrated inside,
Mm-hmm.
that I hadn't even, I wasn't listening to what
Mm-hmm.
was happening around me. I had hit so many walls. I went through a divorce. I had internal corporate betrayal from like the one person I trusted who was my right hand. Didn't even see that coming. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I had a failure with so many different men in my life on an intimate, personal level since I've been divorced for 13 years. And I was building this business, I was building this life with defiance, with anger. I'm going to
Mm,
prove to you that I
mm,
can do this, you know?
mm,
And I was like a warrior. And I mean, when I
mm.
get going, I can roar like a freaking lion, right? I have no problem with that. But what was missing was the softness of me that I had
Mm,
lost. I was
mm,
protecting myself, right? I was like
mm.
always in fight or flight mode.
Why do you think, because I think this is important, why do you think that happened? Like, why do you think that you were constantly in the fight and flight mode? Like, why,
Well,
like, what was it? What was the
it
cause?
it was the well, first it was the story. It was the story I was telling myself about men.
Mm-hmm.
My ex-husband wanted to divorce me because, in essence, there was a lot of factors, but the bottom line is I was very passionate about my business, and he didn't really want to have a working wife. And
Mm-hmm.
when he was next to me with this passionate, you know, person developing a business, even though we had started together in terms of agreeing that I
Mm-hmm.
do this, in terms, you know, we were in alignment that it with the fact that I was starting this. When he started living it with me, he realized that this wasn't for me, for him, sorry. And
Mm-hmm.
so he wanted to divorce, and inside of me, my story that I was telling myself then was, well, can we, there's a, sorry, there's like huge noise, I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the story I was telling myself inside of me was, I'm pissed off. Like I feel like I can't trust a man.
Mm-hmm.
I can't trust a man to protect me and be there for me and take my hand and grow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seen as who I am. I'm not understood and accepted as who I am. Yes, I've been a mother at home for all this time, but I want to be
More
created
than that.
as, I want to be more than that, and I want to be seen and understood for that. I want to be loved for all of who I am, not just a part
For
of who
being
I
a
am,
wife
right?
and mother, stay home.
Right. Yeah. And so
You kind of felt like rejected.
I felt rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. I felt like he just didn't want to grow with me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like for a long time, this unconscious story was running inside of my head, actually, and I only discovered it, and it was totally leading me. My story in my unconscious was that I cannot be with a man as long as I'm ambitious and as long as I'm a lady boss.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be with a man because he's not going to accept me. He's not going to see me for who I am, and
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to love me.
Well, he kind of showed you that. He literally showed you that he's not gonna love you if you are becoming this new version of yourself. He was
Right.
afraid because of his own insecurities, bottom
Correct.
line.
Right.
But then you felt rejected,
I
pain,
felt
hurt.
rejected, pain, hurt,
Yeah,
suffering, and I
yeah.
created my own stories. And then I then basically decided that I was out of defiance and anger, which,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I channeled that energy into the
Mm-hmm.
business,
Mm-hmm.
build the business. But as I was building this business with this energy of defiance and anger and warrior, like, you know, like,
Let me show
you
you who
know,
I
let
can
me show
be.
you, like,
Mm-hmm.
F you kind of men,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, I can do this. I don't need you.
Wow.
Well, then at that point, I started building a lot of protection and a lot of masks over me and a lot of walls. So I was creating a safety net for myself on my own, not allowing men to come in, not allowing even anything, because when you are that protected, you're not in receiver mode, and the receiver mode within us is the feminine energy versus the masculine, which is that driving force, right? So I was in my masculine energy for a long time until I kept hitting walls and walls and walls because I wasn't listening. I wasn't in receiver mode. I couldn't listen. I couldn't hear what I was being told to pay attention to. My health, I had a breakdown. I forgot about that too. I had a breakdown. Like my body just shut down one day on my birthday, out of all days. It just shut down. So I wasn't listening. So that's how.
So it was hard for you to admit that what you're living, doing is actually wrong. And that's why you were, again, it was another fear to admit that, okay, this is not serving me. So you were in the denial mode because you didn't want to see the truth.
And not only that, but let's face it, every woman who is a kick-ass lady boss is functioning in that way. I mean, we are taught and we are told and we're conditioned to act and behave and think like men, so that we are told that the only way to get to success is like that, right?
True, very true,
right?
very true. Masculine energy everywhere. The approach to run business is very masculine.
Yeah.
Even though, yes, there are people waking up these days talking about meditation, implement visualization. I mean, that's for sure, but like intuition, listen to your intuition and business, but still not that many people really like business people talk about it.
So then this is exactly to come back to your question about what I do today. This is it, is I teach people, I show them how to integrate all of who they are within them, and show and so that they show up as their full selves, so they lead from within, whether it's a man or a woman. It's the same principles. And it allows them to create a very sustainable way to perform, a way that doesn't drain them and exhaust them. And it's a constant practice for us, right? I mean, we have these conversations all the time. Is that this is a way to perform and reach success that is, yes, very conscious, but it takes a lot of inner work. So my clients are typically rather high performance, top entrepreneurs, executives at a top level in the corporate world. So I do executive coaching for these people so that they show up in the world as fully integrated with their whole selves. So they are much better performers at work. And so they are also much better people in their intimate, private life with their spouses, as a parent. It's really, I don't keep anything out of the picture. When I work with people, I go deep and we look at everything, because I believe that everything has an impact. The way that you are going to show up, by the way, for instance, pilots, my ex-husband is a pilot. I know pilots all too well. If a pilot, they are required to have a full 8 hours of sleep before, like they have to show up in their cockpit in a way that allows them to perform fully. Why? Because they are serving a bunch of people and they need to be there fully.
Absolutely.
And right. So if they have a fight with their spouse the previous night, it affects them. It affects people. So we can't keep on pretending that life at work is not affected by who we are personally, how we've been raised, who is around us during the day. We have to take responsibility for the way that we show up.
Totally. So I know you have a retreat that is coming up.
Yes.
Exciting.
Yes.
Tell us more details. Like, what is this retreat about? When? And I mean, I know who you serve, but still remind us, like, who is your ideal audience who should join this retreat?
So the ideal, so it's a retreat. This one is a retreat for women. I mean, I call it an immersive reset. I don't like the word retreat anymore. Simply because it's like one of those overused words, it's like authenticity, and it's like those words that everybody
Buzz,
uses, right?
buzzword.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So I call it an immersive reset. Why immersive? Because I want women to completely take responsibility for the way that they show up in their lives, and for the way that they will actually show up in front of men in their lives, for the way that they will show up professionally and personally, for the way that they show up everywhere in their life. So they need to take responsibility, and they actually are completely immersed themselves in within their transformation. So I'm not just there teaching and presenting. We have a full set of immersive experiences like dancing, a soul centering meditation. We have a breathwork ceremony with a beautiful lady. We have my daughter who's presenting on how nutrition actually supports chakra healing and also masculine feminine intelligence, and how to identify when you're off and what foods can actually be taken to ingest so that you recalibrate. We also have what else do we have? I mean, it's just an ongoing set of immersion and experiences to really allow these women to embody what I'm talking about, not just hear it here and
Right.
intellectually get it.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get it, yes, intellectually, but then they need to feel it. and
Absolutely.
and how can they, and form new tools and understand new ways how to create their life. And so it's primarily created and designed for the high achiever woman
Mm-hmm.
who is wanting to no longer sacrifice who she is as a woman to show up in her professional life and in her personal life, because it's fully integrated. But
Absolutely.
it's really educating her as to how to bridge that gap within herself, so that on the outside of her she can also show up differently with men. The typical glass ceiling, we know that the glass ceiling is still a huge problem in corporate America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most women
Mm-hmm.
still complain about that. I mean, we see that last year, 25% of female CEOs actually of Fortune 500 companies actually decided to turn in their resignation letters. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're constantly being hit. And I think that we uh, being hit, or they're constantly hitting their own walls and ceilings, but they're also being prevented. And I think that a component of how they can choose to show up can actually alter that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my belief. And I know I've seen it, I've experienced it. I know that the way that I show up in my professional life today, and the way that I am with professional men, is a different, it creates a completely different result than
Yeah.
the way that I used to be. When
Yeah.
I used to be very confronting and very like lady boss with them, and that edge of defiance and aggressivity and warrior like,
Yep.
it creates an energy field that people, men and women, perceive, and it alters the way that they will actually decide to behave with you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you act with confidence, worthiness, grace, and flow, that's a game changer. You
Yeah.
actually become magnetic to them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can actually create win-win situations, win-win negotiations. You can
Mm-hmm.
actually lead people and influence completely differently. So
Absolutely.
so it's meant for the high achiever who needs to create a different way to achieve success. No longer the grinding and hustling and exhausting and
Yep.
pushing and yes, lady boss ways. They're good, but they're not enough. They're not sustainable. It doesn't
Totally. Totally. Amen. I love this. So where can they sign up for a retreat?
So they can sign up on my website, tatianadudyez.com. So TatianaDudyez.com. The event is right there. It's on the
Perfect.
website. And
Perfect.
the weekend it starts on the 27th at night with a beautiful ceremony of welcoming, so that we all get to know who we are, and get to feel each other out, get to feel this space. I rented this beautiful villa next to Melrose in LA. It has a gorgeous pool. I mean, it's like perfect, I feel, for it's luxurious, it's intimate, it's peaceful, it's ideal.
Perfect.
And then once we get to know each other on the Friday night, then everybody goes home. They don't stay in the villa, but food is included. Cocktails are in. I mean, I'm not serving alcohol, but it's because I want this to be very conscious, right?
Yes.
So, but the food the next 2 days is completely included, and it's for 2 full days during which, like I said, we have a whole bunch of beautiful experiences and a lot of teaching. So they get to live their life differently.
Amazing. So whoever is watching right now, you guys know exactly what to do. And last thing, if you have to give one single piece of advice to someone who is, aspiring immigrant entrepreneur from doesn't matter where, watching this video interview, what would you say? What would you advise them to do? Someone, like you, imagine someone who, well, not necessarily like you because you are like badass, but or maybe like you, whatever. You get the point.
I get the point. To really follow your calling, follow your heart, follow that drive that you have within you to go beyond the box you're in. Because when everybody was asking me in Montreal, Tatiana, what the hell are you doing? Why California? It's so freaking far. Like, my kids included, my mom, like, I mean, they were respectful in that they were not, mentioning too much, like, what the hell are you doing? But I could sense, but everybody else was. And all I could say was, you know what? It's a calling. And I'm listening. Yes, I definitely risked a lot. I risked a lot. I risked pretty much everything that I've built so far to start all over again. Yeah. I came here by myself and I didn't know anyone. And I'm starting a business where no one knows me here without a network I can actually lean on. So yeah, some people will call me completely crazy and a dumbass, and I don't know, I mean, what they, but yes, it takes courage, and yes, it takes resilience, and yes, it takes grit, and all of the above. And yes, I'm still very aware of the fears that pop up, because I'm ambitious and I'm creating a movement, I'm creating something new, and I'm serving people from my heart. And that is what I want. I want to give to people keys to being as performant as they can possibly be, but within the truth of who they are, not with fake masks and protection and all that crap that I used to live under, as I know a lot of people still live under. Follow your truth, be in your truth, and just walk this path. And if anything, this is joy. This is where joy is. And it's a commitment.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tatiana. This
Thank
was
you.
amazing. Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you
so much.
you.
And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys are amazing. I hope that this was inspirational. And if this resonates, make sure to sign up for Tatiana's event. And if you have any question, comments, you can leave them below. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe for upcoming amazing videos like this one. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.